Today, let's talk about the top trends that are shaping 2025 for cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. Hi, I'm Mark from the Bitcoin Tutor, and today we're going to cover what are the trends that are likely to make a huge impact in 2025. So first, what we're seeing is mainstream institutional adoption. What this means is huge amounts of money from various funds, from different companies are starting to come in. What that means is they're believing in Bitcoin. They're believing in the possibility of Bitcoin and other top cryptocurrencies to change the world, and more importantly, to change their financial situation. Big financial companies are also creating simpler ways for people to have exposure to Bitcoin. And they're doing this with exchange-traded funds, with trusts, and from other vehicles that they're familiar with, and based on their bylaws and rules about investing, that they can easily invest in. Because not all of them are allowed to hold Bitcoin directly based on their typical investment approaches. So by having basically what equates to a stock or mutual fund, this ETF is tradable just as easily as that. Not just for retail investors like you and me, but for the large institutional investors. The other thing you'll see there is you're likely to see a tokenization. This whole idea of using crypto, not just for cash, but to represent other things of value. So imagine when you're buying a house that there's a token or a coin, if you will, that represents that house or your car or something else. So you can imagine, and in the financial world, you're going to see this idea of shares of stock over time get represented by a cryptocurrency, by these tokens. And typically these tokens can actually be a general token, like a dollar is a general token, like $1 is like another. Or for things like a house, a real world asset, the idea of having a very specific token that represents the house. Next, we're starting to see what's called a layer 2 scaling solution. So right now, if you look at all the different blockchains, we call those layer 1s. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, and many others have the base blockchain where other activities or other projects can be built on it. These projects are things like different applications, different services. What we're starting to see is layer 2 solutions, and I'll give you some examples. There's Optimism, Arbitrum, and others that provide another layer that allows a faster, less expensive transaction built upon the first layer. So we call those layer 2 because the layer 1's on the underlying blockchains. So we're going to see that especially for uses where you need real-time response. Now that includes things like gaming, where you're playing a live game, so you can't wait, like for Bitcoin, you can't wait 10 minutes for a new block to be created. You need something to happen quickly. So these layer 2s allow things to occur in between whatever these blocks would occur or whenever they would occur on the blockchain. Another one I already alluded to is the idea of real-world assets. Real-world assets allow or are things like cars and houses and other things that are tangible. And until now, it's been written contracts and documents registered with the government and things like that. Cumbersome. Well, imagine all this gets simpler where we use the idea of NFTs or non-fungible tokens. It's another type of token. So if you think of a crypto as being a token, or a dollar, if you would, being a physical token. In the real world assets, a house, a car, other items of value, a plane, can all be tokenized. And then the owner is basically whoever controls the token. So if you have the private key on that token, you are the owner. So on the blockchain, you can always verify ownership just by verifying or what's called signing the transaction to prove that you own it. So this is really going to change the world of how things are managed. So real estate, commodities, energy, art, and all of this is going to really start to unfold in 2025 as a much more efficient and transparent way to know who owns what. Another item that some people are not so happy about are known as CBDCs, and these are central bank digital currencies. This is the central banks of each country trying to again, assert their control, because whoever controls the money supply controls pretty much anything. The idea of these are to really fully digitize their currencies. In the US government, for example, the US dollar is currently managed by the Federal Reserve. And currently that is mostly online anyway. It's mostly digitized. You can imagine there's only a fraction of the total money supply that is in paper money. The rest is, entries on a ledger. Well, ultimately, that's what it is for cryptocurrencies as well. But getting back to CBDCs, we're likely to see them move to that next level where everything is really digitized. It's all CBDCs. It's all not quite a cryptocurrencies in the way that we're used to thinking about decentralization, but a centralized digital currency that they control, that the Federal Reserve controls, that the Bank of England controls, that the European Central Bank controls, for example. So there's pros and cons here, and we can go do a whole episode on this if you would like. But the idea here is that, yes, it might add some simplicity because you'll just need your phone, and you could have your wallet of CBDCs. You don't need currency anymore. But there are many economies that are still cash heavy currencies, especially in South America, Central America, Asia. Many of these places are very, at least Southeast Asia, many of these are very cash-heavy societies. And so this move will probably start in the West, and then we'll see how it goes from there. But just so you know, China has already introduced this, and they've been running trials for well over a year and making progress with that. It's likely to coexist, though, with Bitcoin and others for some time. And then the question will be, which will prevail? And I think given we've seen the mismanagement of banks and of currencies and reckless spending and printing by governments and by central banks, I think there's a strong case to be said that Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, which are finite in nature, are going to have a very strong showing in the coming years and decades. Another use is decentralized finance. So this is another trend that's coming in 2025 that's already started, but really is to the next level of new sustainable yield generation models where you can put your cryptos in what's called a smart contract, which is basically, rather than have someone invest it for you, it's mathematically, if you will, invested and tracked and traced. And there are different models that can be put in place with these smart contracts to allow this idea of earning things like earning income, earning dividends. We call that staking usually in the crypto world. Loans. This will be a very important thing as we move forward because a lot of people do need to borrow money, whether you're a business or you're buying something large. In the crypto world, that's not really built in. But with decentralized finance, you can imagine people could become lenders with their crypto, and then others would want to borrow as well with a sufficient collateral. So that's another trend that we're seeing. Another one is gaming. Gaming is huge. Now, what's interesting about gaming, a lot of people don't realize this, but I'll put up a chart here that, in 2021, which is the latest information I had available, which that recorded music was $26 billion a year industry. Filmed entertainment was $100 billion. Books, which were surprising to me, were $120 billion, but video games are almost $200 billion, especially during the lockdown period, where a lot of money went into video games. Well, video games are a perfect match for the cryptocurrency and blockchain and ideas of NFTs, and the idea of these layer 2 solutions as well, where things can happen quickly. There are also new layer 1 solutions, meaning new blockchains that are being designed specifically to handle real-time interactions for things like gaming. One of them is Avalanche, which is really starting to move into the gaming area and is very, very quick, even at its layer 1. And it was within seconds, you can have something move across the world that's worth, thousands or millions of dollars. Another area that's growing is AI and blockchain integration. We're starting to see those two get closer together. There are a number of projects that contain AI and are looking to use that technology to improve the way the blockchains work, the security, the scalability. There are use cases now using something called predictive analytics and decentralized data sharing and autonomous smart contracts. These are all terms I'm not going to break down today, but these are things that are coming. New ways of doing things and new ways of using AI with crypto. There's also a move to environmental and energy efficiency. You can imagine with certain blockchain protocols that things can be done more efficiently, certainly more efficiently than they're done today. If everything's tokenized, it could be much simpler. And then looking at the different ways that these blockchains are managed through what's called mining, there are greener ways to do that as well. That's already been introduced with things like proof of stake instead of proof of work. These are things you can look up if you're not familiar with them. There's also more information on my channel about proof of stake. Again, leave in the comments anything you'd like me to spend more time and explain to you. But really the idea of being able to manage and allocate resources with blockchain technology, I think will be another trend. Two more trends here. One is privacy and security. Now, this is a trend that governments are fighting, but there are a number of new coins or existing coins that are really built with security from the ground up. Two of the really probably name-worthy ones are Monero and Pirate Chain. And those two were built with security from the ground up where you can't see in the blockchain who sent what. So it's a hidden blockchain, if you will. And there's various levels of security. In fact, Monero has 4 levels of security: obscuring the amount, obscuring the sender, obscuring the receiver. And now they're looking to obscure where you were during that transaction, because that information is otherwise, this GPS information is also held, and that can also help identify you. Again, this is not to encourage criminal activity. This is to better protect our own security and privacy. And finally, there's a real trend that has started in 2024. Well, it started before, but it's really got going in 24 and is expected to continue into 2025, which is community-driven projects, primarily meme coins. Taking some interesting, comical ideas, some interesting meme, whether it's a dog or a cat or a bird or a chill guy or whatever it is, and creating coins that create a community. And I think we're going to move into the place where it's not just, a speculative investment, but some of these things will do something. Elon Musk, for example, talked about Doge perhaps being one of the currencies that people use person to person without needing to use Bitcoin or something that is, much more expensive and more expensive to use, where Dogecoin costs less than a penny to send to someone else. It's a fraction of a penny, and it's very quick. So I think we're going to see things, whether they're Doge or Pepe or Floki or one of the other memes. And for those of you who don't know, every day there are dozens of new meme coins that are created. And some of them will stick, and some of them will build useful communities, and others may not. So, we're in a very interesting time where the regulations are starting to come into crypto. A lot of things are changing. There's a lot of volatility in the market, a lot of uncertainty with the current economic cycle in most of the West. But there are massive opportunities in the crypto market. So I see 2025 in closing here as a pivotal year for crypto adoption and innovation. We're getting to the point where everybody's going to want to have crypto in their portfolio. And again, these big companies, in fact, like Schwab Bank and Schwab Investments, have told their clients, invest in Bitcoin. You need to, just to keep up with inflation and to keep up the value of your investments. So I think, finally, this may be the first year in the history of crypto where the U.S. is more favorable toward crypto, which is working with the crypto industry to help create regulations that work, that are reasonable, rather than just litigate every little thing that the SEC or some other IRS or somebody else thinks you shouldn't be doing, but without having any guidelines. I think there are a lot of good people that want to follow the rules, but you got to define the rules. What are the rules? So, and let's do this together. So I think the U.S. will help guide a lot of the rest of the West to adopt and create rules that are appropriate for their organizations as well. And look forward to seeing what's happening then. Please subscribe. This is Mark from the Bitcoin Tutor, and I'm so glad you're with us today. And see you again in another video.